Hey everybody, this is Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, and you are listening to Damage 365 Radio. And remember, everybody's got a price for the $1 Million Man.
It's the All Night Long Wrestling Podcast with the Enforcer.
I believe they're called enforcers, Gordon. I sell women's shoes.
And the Stallion.
Stallion, baby! I am not what you would call a handsome man. I'll kick you in the nuts and you'll smile at me and like it all night.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the All Night Long Wrestling Podcast. We are your host. He is the Stallion. I am the Enforcer, and today we have an incredibly special guest, and we are joined by, well, you might know her as Abbey Laith, you might know her as Kimber Lee, but however you know her, make sure you know her as a wrestler. Kimber Lee, welcome to the All Night Long Wrestling Podcast.
Hey, it's good to be here.
Well, we really appreciate you taking the time to come on the show. I know you have an incredible busy schedule. Speaking of busy, I mean, let's just hop right into it. We are on the heels of the biggest wrestling weekend pretty much ever, which was WrestleCon. I know you appeared on, so many different shows. Your Pro Wrestling Revolver, the Mercury Rising show. As somebody who's never been to a WrestleCon yet until next year when they come to New Jersey, and we will be there, can you just give us a kind of rundown of what your weekend was like and what that experience was like for you?
It was definitely a whirlwind, that's for sure, just because it's pretty much go, go, go from the second you get there, and we finally got a break probably the last day I got to actually hang out and not have to work or anything like that, but that's the fun of it too, so I don't mind being in a whirlwind of busy if I did. But
True,
yeah,
sure.
it was awesome to be back too and see everybody and get to be some places I haven't been in a while. So.
Yeah, and being that, everybody who's anybody is in town for that weekend, you have some of the most stacked professional wrestling shows, ever. From the WWN, the Mercury Rising show, you have the Matt Riddle Bloodsport show, the Beyond Wrestling show. The talent is just, it's got to be so much fun to be able to catch up with everybody and then just have so many great matches that weekend.
Yeah, for sure. And even on the days that were maybe lighter for me, the people I was traveling with had more shows for themselves, and so I got to enjoy some good wrestling too while I was there. So it was just overall a fun weekend. And like you said, there's just so much talent there that even when you're not wrestling, there's something awesome to watch, and you get to support your brothers and sisters.
And your whole, so busy with professional wrestling as an athlete, are you able to kind of separate yourself that weekend, like you said, and really sit back and enjoy the matches as well? Or is it ever too much pro wrestling?
No, I am able to sit back and enjoy wrestling if I'm choosing to sit and watch it. I think if I ever stopped loving watching wrestling too, that's losing part of the love. I don't know. Can I say there's days where I'm like, okay, I got to take a break? Absolutely. But, I think I'm always going to love watching wrestling as much as I do performing. It's part of it too.
And there's so many different avenues to take in professional wrestling. Now, tell us a little bit. I know you had a very interesting transition into professional wrestling from dance to college to independent wrestling to CZW. That's not the kind of transition that everybody makes. So just catch people up on how that started and how your love for wrestling really took over.
Well, my wrestling, when I was younger, I was never allowed to watch wrestling. It was something that my mom was pretty pretty against, and I kind of get it now because when I was a kid, it was the Attitude Era, and you can understand why you don't want your young daughter to watch that at the time. Okay,
yeah, I mean,
you might have been right.
Even going back now and watching some of the Attitude stuff, it's tough to watch now, and I'm 30, let alone when I was a kid.
Yeah,
But,
yeah. So, but I was always intrigued by it and fascinated, and would sneak and watch it at my friend's house, who they were allowed to watch it, and just could never really get away from it. And then transitioned to when I moved from Seattle to Philadelphia for college. And when I moved there, I ended up meeting people from the city, not just people that I went to college with, through a job that I had. And they took me to wrestling shows where I ended up running into Drew Gulak, of all people, and just becoming friends and starting to have a conversation about wrestling and how you become a wrestler. How does this happen? I was still just completely fascinated, and I think it has to do with the performing arts side of me that's always been there, part of the reason why I was so fascinated. And so we got into a conversation about training, and I ended up going for it at the CZW Wrestling Academy is where I started with Drew, and the rest is history because I never quit, clearly.
yeah, and I mean, a lot of times, I think there was a tagline of WWE for a while, like, it ain't ballet or something like that. And I mean, I've known a couple of my friends growing up, they were dancers, and the work that they would put in, it's not even just, it's training before dance and things like that. So the work ethic is there, and I think that's probably, I don't want to speak out of turn, but probably would, entice you to come to professional wrestling, was you already had that hard work ethic. So why not take that and unleash it into a different avenue? Yeah,
for sure. And I think dance helped me so much transitioning into wrestling too, just because both of them really are. I like to describe a professional wrestler as we're kind of stunt athletes or stunt artist athletes, kind of all mixed into one. And so I think the dance aspect was definitely something that helped me out a lot.
I had spoken to Chris Hero one time, and he said professional wrestling and wrestling in a match is pretty much like making music. And I thought that was a really good analogy because of the creative freedom that you have, and to be able to bring that to somebody else and kind of just take it and, as a creative person, be able to perform something like that I totally see where you're coming from with the whole dance comparison. Now, yeah. For the people that aren't familiar with CZW, Drew Gulak was your kind of ticket to CZW. What did you think when you saw CZW for the first time?
I didn't. No words, really. The first time you encounter CZW, it's an animal of its own breed and scares a lot of people away. And you want to talk about stuff not exactly being on the kid-friendly side of things. Well, CZW is probably as far away from kid-friendly as you can get at times. But at the same time, it's something special, too, and holds a strange place of love in my heart, too, and always will. And I was never, I can't say I was ever much of the deathmatch wrestler or someone who ever would really, I think, fall into that category. But the kind of respect and, I have for the people who are, and the toll that they take on their own bodies just for us. And it's, I don't know, to me, I really appreciate it too, just because I kind of was surrounded by it and learned how to appreciate it. But yeah, CZW is quite a thing.
Now, were you training, you were going to school and training at the same time, is that correct?
I was. I started training when I was a sophomore in college, so I was 19.
And how long after you began training did you have your first match?
2 years it actually took. So I started training in 2009, and my first match wasn't until 2011.
Are you ever really prepared for your first match? I know that's kind of like a silly question, but I know some people, no matter how much training they have. So what was that moment like when you're about to step out for the curtain for the first time?
Oh, Definitely butterflies. Again, I think with dance, that's another advantage I had. It's not the first time I've been in front of an audience, so I wasn't afraid to come through a curtain per se, but definitely nervous to do something new. And I had actually, right before I was supposed to debut, I broke my hand and had to have surgery on my thumb. And so I had just recovered from that. And so I was nervous about that too. You're right. You can never really be prepared for the first time. You have to go in front of an audience. You kind of just have to, it's like trial by fire type of situation you eventually have to be put into. But I think that's kind of where you see who's going to sink and who's going to swim too in this industry.
Right. That's actually exactly what I was going to say, sink or swim. From CZW, you went to appear in literally almost the polar opposite of Chikara.
I did.
Chikara is, again, an animal of itself in a completely different direction. I believe
there's dancing ice cream cones. Weird things happen there, too.
Yeah, and I believe you were the first female wrestler to hold the Chikara Grand Championship.
I was.
I mean, that's got to be a huge feather in the cap. Chikara, for people that don't know, there's people under masks. There's, like you said, dancing ice cream cones, silver ants, and blue ants. Chikara is just so fun to watch, and that's like the ultimate family-friendly atmosphere, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We're all about making a show where absolutely anybody could attend and have a good time, and not have a moment where you might have to, feel like you need to remove a kid because of something that's happened. No, it's very inclusive, very family-friendly.
And then, speaking of shielding a kid's eyes, and then you kind of go over to Beyond Wrestling. And Beyond, a lot of people think that's kind of like the PWG of the East. And you've had some amazing matches in Beyond Wrestling, and I don't know if you know this, but there's a tag team match. It's you and Heidi Lovelace against Chris Dickinson and Sami Callihan. I don't know if you know. It has 5.8 million hits on YouTube. Are you aware of that?
I know there's a lot of my matches on, because me and Drew have all, not Gulak, this is Drew Cordero, different Drew. We've been in contact for the most part. Even when I wasn't around regularly at Beyond, and so he's kind of kept me up to tabs on what's going on with the YouTube channel and such, and so I knew a lot of them had garnered a lot of views, but it's still, every time I hear that, I'm like, that's insane to me. Many people have watched it.
Yeah, that's more people that have watched WrestleMania. Just like to put that in perspective. So that is, I hope you're receiving.
What?
Yeah, that's more people than watch this year's WrestleMania. So I hope you are receiving some nice royalties for the 5.8 million people. Speaking of Evolve Wrestling, you and Chris Dickinson had some insane matches, some insane moments.
Some altercations, yes.
Yes, and the Pazuzu bomb heard round the world is what I like to call it. That clip took off literally like wildfire. Did you think it was that big of a deal at the time after?
No, not at all. Not even like an inkling that anything like that was going to happen. Both of us just, it was something that we agreed upon to entertain the fans. I had been wrestling at Beyond Wrestling at that time. I had been winning for 16 months. And I hadn't lost, and I was the only female on the roster. So it was going to be my first loss, and we wanted to make it a big deal, and we did, and then the world blew up about it, and we just kind of watched it happen with no idea what to do, really.
Well, the buzz that created was unbelievable.
Yeah.
But besides the match with Chris Dickinson, you had an awesome match with Keith Lee, matches with Drew Gulak. I know personally, I got my fiance into professional wrestling through intergender wrestling because she, she enjoyed it so much. A big fan of your work. She loves Candice LeRae. So what is your stance? I know the world has changed drastically in maybe the last 10 or 15 years, whatever it might be, but how did you feel when you first saw the intergender wrestling? Really, what's your stance on it?
I mean, from day one, I want to wrestle the boys. I don't want to be treated like that I'm a girl. For me, it was day one. That's all I wanted to do, because even coming into the CZW Academy, I'm the first female that they've ever trained there too. So I guess it was just kind of instinctually put into me to be as strong as and work just as hard as the men, because that's what I had to do. Drew didn't take it easy on me. Drew made me do every single drill that they were doing, and if we were doing something that involved carrying the other person, I had to do it. Granted, they would pair me off with the smallest guy, but it was usually somebody bigger than me, and it's just, I don't know how I was taught, and so if that's how I was taught, why can't I be looked at as an equal competitor? Because I work just as hard, and I know I can do it. So I guess that's pretty definite on where my stance is.
Absolutely. And I mean, through those drills, you were able to German suplex Keith Lee. So I would say something definitely paid off.
Yeah.
So after that, I mean, next big step, I would say, would be the Mae Young Classic.
Yeah.
You had a great run in the Mae Young Classic, and rewatching it back as I did like the last month or so, and I'm not just saying this, I truly believe you had the loudest pop when you came out in that opening match against Jazzy Gabbard. What was that, that first match like? But overall, what was that experience like, and how long did you guys tape, and how many matches was it really?
Oh, the Mae Young is definitely going to go down as one of the greatest things I've ever been a part of in my life, hands down. Especially getting to be the first one too. Excuse me. And it was just such an awesome experience, and it was tournament style, so we taped up to the ending in 2 days of shows here at Full Sail, and just getting to see all the competitors too, from all over the world, which and some of them being my friends, and them getting the opportunities to be there too. It just overall was a really great thing, and I'm happy that I got to be a part of it.
Definitely. And I mean, in your career, a lot of times, like you said, you had, the intergender matches, and you wrestled as an underdog against Keith Lee and Drew Gulak and stuff like that. And that opening match you had with Jazzy Gabbard was just awesome. That was a back and forth, hard-hitting match. And even, there was so much talent in the Mae Young Classic. I mean, a lot of that, I guess there's only so much time, but it was such a talent-filled pool. Do you think that's really what kind of helped the WWE build their women's divisions now? And they're kind of just, I don't want to say, they're kind of taking everybody they could find, and there's not so much space for people on the main roster right now.
You mean, I couldn't really tell you what they're up to. No one really knows except until they want you to know. But whatever's happening, they're giving women a lot of opportunities, and that's a great thing. So I can't be upset about that. Having more spaces for women isn't a bad thing, I don't think.
No, I would definitely agree with you on that one. And actually, I'm going to put you on the spot right now, because Joe and we attended our first ever Shine event at Shine 49 at La Boom, and it was awesome. And actually, Shine 49 outdrew the previous Evolve show that was there. So they have a great fan base. They have a great crowd, and we had such a good time. We're going to be going back. We're going to be going back to Shine 51 at La Boom in Queens, and we got to know, are you going to be on the card?
I don't know about 51. However, I do know about Shine 50 down here in Ybor City next weekend. On Friday, I believe. Not tomorrow, the week after.
And then you will be challenging Lufisto for the Shine title, correct?
Exactly. So
right, well,
I will be at that one.
all right, I got to tell you, we're going to be pulling for you because we want to see you up here in New York for Shine 51.
I miss New York. It's been a while. So.
Well, you're not missing anything.
I'm
it's like 30 degrees right now, so you're not missing a thing.
Oh, no, never mind. I'll stay here. It was 90 today.
Oh, okay. See, you're lucky. Listen, and before we let you go, we ask every single person that comes on the show. Me and Joe are split down the middle. It's like the Civil War here. We need you to pick Bret Hart or Shawn Michaels. Who do you got?
Oh, I'm Shawn Michaels.
I'm devastated because we've asked. I can't tell you. We've asked so many people. We've asked Keith Lee, Ethan Page. Every single person has said Shawn Michaels, and not one person is on Team Bret Hart with me. So it's devastating. He's the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be, Joe.
Apparently not. Apparently he's not.
Yeah, I gotta say Shawn Michaels. I gotta.
And I gotta ask you too, if somebody who maybe they've been under a rock, but they haven't seen a Kimber Lee match, you want to send somebody that's never seen you perform before, what match are you going to send them?
Oh, man. Oh, that depends, because Beyond just started releasing a bunch of new ones that are really good. Like, they just released Me versus Keith Lee and Me versus Drew Gulak, which, as far as matches go that are really important to me, I would send them that one. But there's also, like, Me versus Asuka before she was Asuka. So there's a lot. I've got a lot. That would be a tough decision.
So what we're telling people is to make sure you go to YouTube and go to Beyond Wrestling and subscribe and watch all of the Kimber Lee matches on there. How's that?
Yeah, that's a solid plan.
Speaking of solid plans, I want to let you know and all of our listeners know, you guys need to go to ProWrestlingTees.com and you need to look up Kimber Lee and you need to purchase some merch on there because at Shine 51, we're going to be rocking the Kimber Lee She's a Wrestler shirt. I got one in pink. Joe got it in white. You know, we don't want to match too much. But listen, we'll be there. And if people want to follow you, they want to find out bookings, upcoming events, where can they get in touch with you?
You can always see what I'm doing on Twitter and Instagram. That is at Kimber_LEE90 for both of them. That's the best way to see what I'm up to and where I'm going next. And both of them have the little blue check mark, so it's pretty easy to tell which one's me. Don't believe any imitations.
The blue check mark means so much. It really does. You never know what's out there. Listen, Kimber, we cannot thank you enough for coming on the All Night Long Wrestling podcast. We look forward to seeing you in the future. We wish you nothing but the best of luck against Lufisto next weekend, and hopefully we'll see you at Shine 51 as the new champion.
Yes, that would be ideal. Thanks for having me, guys. It's been fun.
Thank you, Kimber. Have a great night.
You too. Take care.